II. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked the American fleet at Pearl Harbor, triggering our entry into that war. President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared the attack was a day that will live in infamy. A day of infamy indeed, but not because of the alleged surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. After 60 years of surfacing information, it is clear that not only was the attack on Pearl Harbor known weeks in advance, it was outright wanted and provoked. Roosevelt, whose family had been New York bankers since the 18th century, whose uncle Frederick was on the original Federal Reserve Board, was very sympathetic to the interests of the international bankers, and the interest was to enter the war, as we've seen, nothing is more profitable for international bankers than war. In a journal entry by Roosevelt's Secretary of War Henry Stimson, dated November 25, 1941, he documented a conversation he had with Roosevelt. The question was, how should we maneuver them into firing the first shot? It was desirable to make sure the Japanese be the ones to do this, so that there should remain no doubt as to who were the aggressors. In the months leading up to the attack on Pearl Harbor, Roosevelt had done almost everything in his power to anger the Japanese, showing a posture of aggression. He halted all of Japan's imports of American petroleum. He froze all the Japanese assets in the United States. He made public loans to nationalist China and supplied military aid to the British, both enemies of Japan in the war, which, by the way, is completely in violation of international war rules. And on December 4th, 3 days before the attack, Australian intelligence told Roosevelt about a Japanese task force moving towards Pearl Harbor. Roosevelt ignored it. So, as hoped and allowed, on December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, killing 2,400 soldiers. Before Pearl Harbor, 83% of the American public wanted nothing to do with the war. After Pearl Harbor, 1 million men volunteered for the war.
Occurred after the end of the Second World War. Very interesting things happened before that, but I don't want to keep you here until 11 o'clock, so let's cut out part of it. You can get it in this book here, Prohibition of Riba in the Quran and Sunnah. And let me go straight to the end of the Second World War. The European powers who were victorious, they now called an international monetary conference and invited the rest of the world to attend. It was held in a place in upstate New York called Bretton Woods. And there were Muslim countries present. Saudi Arabia was there. It was held in 1944. And out of the negotiations of Bretton Woods emerged the Bretton Woods Agreement, which created a new international monetary system. Two important things were agreed upon at Bretton Woods. Number one, prepare yourself for it. Not all checks can be cashed. Only one check. Which one? The US dollar. Only this currency can be redeemed for gold at $35 an ounce. So this is halal. But all the rest of the paper money in the world are now checks which cannot be cashed. You could exchange them for the US dollar, check for check, but you cannot cash them. That's the first agreement at Bretton Woods. And so now it's plain. This system is 99% haram, only 1% halal. That is the US dollar, which the US government has promised that if you come with US dollars, we will convert it for you to gold at $35 an ounce. We gave our word to you, and we will keep our word, and we put it on the US dollar. Did you see it? In God we trust, Ever saw it? The second thing that came out of the Bretton Woods Agreement was that not every individual can take US dollars to have it converted into gold, redeemed. No. Only governments, only central banks can do it, not individuals. So are we not a part of the market? This system is now 99.9% haram. It is only 0.1% halal, meaning that a government can go to the United States and say, here are US dollars that we have. We want you to redeem it for gold at $35 an ounce. You gave your word, now keep your word. So 0.1% halal. This is the Bretton Woods Agreement. And it lasted from 1944 until 1971. Some of you, I believe, must have been born already by 1971. In 1971, September 1971, the British government, Island of Tomidari, the British government came in one Friday evening to Uncle Sam, the US government, and said, Uncle Sam, we got $3 billion US dollars here. We want to cash these checks. You promised on the Bretton Woods, you promised to do it. $3 billion US dollars to be redeemed to gold at $35 an ounce. Suddenly, Richard Nixon couldn't digest his food anymore. Why? Because he had written more checks than he had money in his account. If I did that, or Sheikh Fries did that, they would arrest us. But who can arrest Sam? If he gave the gold to Britain, then Monday morning who's going to be at the front of the line? Saudi Arabia? Because they got a mountain of checks for all the oil they've been selling. And they will say, if the British wanted the gold, we better go and do it quickly. But Uncle Sam didn't have the gold to redeem all that US dollars. So Uncle Sam retired to Camp David, Richard Nixon. And then on Sunday, he addressed the world, and he said, we gave our word, but we don't have to keep it. And so the Bretton Woods Agreement collapsed in September 1971. After the collapse of the Bretton Woods Agreement, the world of paper money is now 100% haram. Surely the world of Islam would recognize that. Surely the ulama of the world of Islam would recognize that. But no, it was not illa masha'Allah. Between 1971 and 1973, an ominous thing was happening. From $35 to an ounce, it started to move to 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. And by 1973, it had reached 40. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the subject of your enemy. And listen to what he says. Had this not been in the Quran, or they would sue me. لَتَجِدَنَّ Time and again you will find أشد الناس عداوة للذين آمنوا اليهود. Time and again you will find that those who will have the greatest hatred and hostility and enmity for you will be the Jews. إلى آخر الآية. And so your worst enemy now controls money. All he has to do is to go to his laptop computer and type in a little bit, and he puts $1 trillion in his account. Who's there to stop him? Governments?